Hello and welcome to part 9 of the Avid Media Composer tutorial. In this part we're going to mainly focus on color correction, and I'm going to explore it in 3 different parts. In this part we're going to first look at for the first initial steps you get when grading and what you should do before you grade any material. For me, the most important thing as an editor before you grade is obviously finding out what camera the production used, and then determining if the camera shot material in either Rec. 709, which is a burnt in what you see is what you get look, or did they shoot in some kind of flat picture profile, or what we generally call a log mode, a filmic mode. So today I want to look at log and Rec. 709. So as an editor, it's very important to identify which camera has used what format to shoot in. So in this case today we have a Sony F55 here shooting in S-Log in 2K at 25 frames per second. So what are the benefits of shooting in S-Log? Well, like any log mode, V-Log, V-Log for Panasonic, C-Log for Canon, S-Log for Sony, ARRI log. These are all flat picture profiles which enable us to capture the widest dynamic range on the camera. So what I mean by dynamic range is the difference between brightness and darkness. So in this case, when you're shooting typically fiction, you want to capture the widest amount of information possible during production. So the idea is that afterwards you can go into color correction and manipulate your images in as many ways as possible. Usually it opens up lots of creative possibilities with what you can do with the picture in terms of defining the look from production to post-production. In this case we have S-Log material here shot in 2K. The Sony F55 gives us about 14 stops of dynamic range. If we were to shoot this in Rec. 709, it would have compressed the information down to about probably 7 to 8 stops of visible contrast and dynamic range. So at the moment, as you can see, we have a very flat picture profile, and we know it's a very flat picture profile because there's very little contrast and color in the image. This is very important. Whilst it's not the most pleasing thing to look at, one of the benefits of this type of picture, like I said earlier, is that it allows us to capture the widest amount of information. So it allows us to capture the most amount of information whilst we're shooting. This was something previously only motion picture film cameras could do. Now a lot of mid-range to high-end digital cameras come equipped with some form of flat picture profile, which enables us to basically get the best out of the camera's sensor. Previously, video cameras and digital cameras could only shoot in Rec. 709, which is a great LUTS, a lookup table, but the thing is it was often burnt into the camera itself while shooting. So basically what that did to digital cameras was it effectively defined them in a very specific way. So if you hadn't shot your film and exposed it on set during production, the look you found out was often very defined through production. So basically you could bring it into the edit, but there wasn't very many options in terms of how you could grade or manipulate that picture. So first thing we're going to do with this footage is we're going to apply a LUTS, a lookup table. In today's industry, it's very important that we can view our camera frames in a way that allows us to enable the grading process. And one of the ways in which we can do that is by applying a lookup table to our video, basically. At the moment, it's very hard to make creative judgments on a flat picture without having some kind of basis for comparison, or at least a grounding, sort of putting in the groundwork in before we can kind of basically develop the look. So The first thing we're going to do is apply a LUT, and in Avid it's very simple. We want to go to our main effects palette presets up here, and we want to go to image, and we want to go to color LUTs, and we want to drag this effect down into our video timeline, and then once it's loaded we can access it. So we can access it via the effect mode template here, which brings this up. Now Avid has a lot of built-in LUTs already, but like every non-linear editing system, and because there's so many cameras on the market currently, you are able to download obviously lots of other LUTs made by other manufacturers for obviously each of their cameras. In this case, Avid has a built-in Sony LUT for us to use, which is fantastic. One important thing to bear in mind when shooting, when you're choosing to shoot in digital cinema, is when you're shooting, it is important to actually consider using a LUT on set. Most cameras enable you to actually install the LUT through the viewfinder and through its various monitoring systems whilst you're shooting, while still having the V-log or S-log or flat picture profile enabled for recording. So basically, the camera operator, the director, the cinematographer can all watch a set Rec 709 color space, which is this when I select it. But inevitably, what the camera is actually recording is this. But what we're seeing through the viewfinder and on the monitors is this, which is a much more pleasing picture to look at, I think, in my opinion. It gives us a much more accurate representation of the colors. And in this case, I actually used this specific LUT whilst I was shooting the film. I knew that at the time, so when it came to applying it later, I knew I could find it in the Avid and retain that look, which is very important to me whilst I was shooting on production and then carrying that forward into post. I wanted to make sure I could bring that lookup table with me, so I could keep my look the same effectively and carry that through. So we've got our LUT selected, and as you can see, there's a big difference already in the way the picture looks. A million times more interesting, a lot better, and this effectively provides the initial groundwork for our film and our grade. So thank you very much for watching, and please watch the next part where we talk about balancing contrast and getting our exposure finessed in the next Avid tutorial. Until then, I'll see you later. Take care. Bye bye.